Welcome back to the Standing Room Only podcast with Healy and Goose, or Goose and Healy, however you want to order it. This is episode number 27, and yeah, it's been a week since our last episode. Of course, we upload weekly. You can find us on social media at SR Only Pod. Let us know what you think of episodes. Give us some feedback on episodes. Give us some topics you want us to cover. You guys are the listeners, so we will talk about things that you want to, because you guys deserve some of it for helping us out and listening or dedicating your time to listen to these episodes. We do upload on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. If you guys listen on Spotify and Apple, make sure to hit that download button. Subscribe to the podcast. We can only see analytics for downloads on those platforms. So we're always curious on how many people listen to our episodes per week. So make sure you hit that download button on each episode. You can follow myself at TheHealy6 on Twitter and Instagram.
And then you can follow myself. I am Goose. You can follow me, Goose, 4 O's. That's the letter I, word Goose, 4 O's. Don't ask why. I am on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. Don't use it as much. But if you are interactive with the podcast, I am very interactive as well. As Healy said, go ahead and hit the download button, subscribe. We are on YouTube as well. We don't generally promote as much on YouTube, but we're on there. So if you want to put the voices with the faces, the face with the voice, however you want to word it, Healy's beautiful. I'm pretty. Let's call it a day, right? So, and then of course, Apple Podcast, Spotify, those are the two main streams that we are on. So yeah, if you guys enjoy hearing what we have to say, I think the biggest thing for us, the most fun for us is the interactive on social media. When we do polls, if you guys have questions, if we left something out, if we're wrong on a stat, let us know. I like to be told I'm wrong. I come back hungrier for next episode. So we want to thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. There's a whole lot of not too much going on in sports. We do have some news though. We do have some news, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, we are going to start off with the baseball this week. MLB apparently had a deal set in stone to resume play in July 4th would be when they resume. Owners want to do it. The players, not so much. The owners want to have 50% of the revenue go to the players and 50% of the revenue go to the owners. The players want prorated salaries. So it's not looking too great as of now. We will see probably over the next few days, the next week or so, what the players want to do. It's going to be a player association against Major League Baseball to try and get baseball back. I definitely want baseball. The players want baseball back. But it all depends on if a deal can be made. Like I said, the players, they would rather have prorated deals, and they don't want to be skimped out on money, especially some of the guys who aren't making as much as a lot of the stars in the league. So
yeah, I think that's gonna be the biggest curveball, right, so to speak, is how do we get these players the money that they deserve to rush in an 82 game season? I think, what was the talks of, you said July they were looking at, right? Like that was the proposed idea.
July
And the
4th.
owners. Okay. I think you got to work with the players. I think the biggest thing is there's always money to be made, right? Like they always think about it from the business aspect. As a business owner in the front office, sure. Do they love their players? Yes, but do they love their money more? More than likely. So I think if you can get some games going and get the season rolling, there's gonna be, there's sponsorships, there's gonna be TV, there's viewers and I think the money will come in. So I think they should be able to work with the players to give them what they want. you're not only giving the players what they want, you're giving the fans what they want, you're giving the networks what they want. So
Hmm.
I think it's gonna take a whole, um, I guess, a little bit of everybody kind of giving up a little bit of something, right, to
Yeah.
kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah. And it was kind of scummy of what Major League Baseball did. Basically, so right now, what we're talking about, it got leaked out to the public, and uh, basically, they might have known that this deal wasn't going to be as good as it should have been, so they leaked it out in the public. So then, once finally, the players respond and they decline it, it's on the players. They're forcing the players, trying to influence them to do this, so they don't. So the players will look bad if they don't want to go through with it, which I think is kind of scummy.
It is. It. I mean, kind of smart, but kind of, yeah, as you mentioned, kind of scummy. I mean, to force the players, but that's how it is, right? The front office, they're gonna make themselves, the business guys are gonna try to make themselves look better. Um, I think I don't know if I'm a player. I mean, taking a pay cut, if it's not gonna hinge on my season, or on my living, then it shouldn't be a big deal. But that's just my opinion on the situation. I know some guys make almost $40 million a year, and I know some other guys only make maybe a million. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, a lot just make like 500K. We're gonna move on to the Korean baseball, in which we talked a little bit about last week, and I actually stayed up to watch a few of those games last week, and they were pretty decent. I watched, I think, 2 or 3 games. I stayed up until like 4 or 5. A couple of the games, and then the last one was Sunday, and that one was at like noon, or not noon. It was like midnight our time. And today's game, there was actually a walk off, so that was cool. A lot of the games that I did watch, it was kind of one sided with how the score went. But today's game, it was a walk off, ninth inning, a lot of scoring. If you guys want to watch some KBO baseball, there's a couple different teams shown this week. The team I'm rooting for, the Kiwoom Heroes, they are being shown Sunday at 1 a.m. Eastern time. A couple of the other teams being shown this week are tonight is the Twins versus the Wyverns. Same with tomorrow, and then Friday and Saturday, it's the Doosan Bears and the Kia Tigers. And as you mentioned before we started the podcast, you didn't realize that a lot of these team names aren't based off cities how they are in the U.S. They're actually like sponsorships for
Yeah,
teams.
they're brand names. I saw Samsung, I saw Nokia, and I thought that was pretty unique because it's not based on cities. That's like the American tradition. We find a city, battle against other cities, and this one is Samsung versus Nokia, battle of the flip phone.
Yeah. Kia, the car company, is also there. It's very common in the foreign baseball leagues because they need the sponsorship money and all like the money that they can get. But yeah, if you guys are looking for actual baseball, you can follow them at those times, or you can watch them at 2 p.m. Eastern time, pretty much every day. You watch the re-air of the game from the night before. It's been refreshing. Last week, I was watching 3 games at one time on all my monitors, and I was in heaven.
You're getting live baseball.
Yeah,
That's live baseball
unbelievable
right there.
experience watching 3 games at once, seeing live scoring. Oh, it was great. The unknown happening, amazing.
I really enjoy the fake fans that they have in the background.
Yeah,
I
the
got a kick
cardboard
out of that
cutouts.
too. I got a kick out of that. So I mean, that's literally how our sports are gonna be. You're gonna have no fans whatsoever, maybe some cardboard cutouts as like a joke to show fans in the crowd,
Yeah,
right? So, because I know there's been It's interesting watching live sports with no fans. It's very different, and for that to be the new norm. I mean, I can adjust to that, but just having that intensity, like if I'm a player and I know these players feast off of the energy of the crowd, it's going to be interesting to see them adjust to that. Like a huge
Hmm.
fast break leads to a and one to maybe seal the deal in a game, and there's no crowd to
Yeah.
go nuts.
Yeah, you need your team and yourself to just get pumped up by yourself, and getting a huge momentum shift, it's going to be tough. Or like getting huge momentum in general in a game is going to be tough because you don't have the crowd behind you cheering on. And or like if you're the home team and you're getting stomped and the crowd goes silent, and then the away team just keeps pounding whatever sport you're playing, the score, running it up, or like in baseball, just hitting more home runs. Definitely a big factor there. Speaking of crowdless sports, UFC had a big event last weekend. I
Yeah.
watched some of it. I know you said you saw some of the highlights. It was definitely weird. It was cool to like see things be normal, with like the interviews and the fighting and like how they came out to the octagon. But it was definitely odd when watching the actual fight. You could hear everything happen. You could hear all the punches, you could hear all the steps, everything that happened on the mat. You could hear their trainers, everything that they said to their opponent, and that probably helped out their fighters a lot. Being able to hear your
Yeah.
trainers and like pick up stuff mid round. Normally they have to
Yeah.
wait.
There's no crowd, there's nothing. It's almost like watching so back in the day, and I don't know if they still do it, there was that show, The Ultimate Fighter,
Yeah.
where they would gather guys and it'd be team A versus team B. The coaches are, professional fighters, champions, whoever they are, Rampage Jackson versus Chuck Liddell. And it was always just right there in that little setup that they had, and it was always quiet, and all you can hear is the coach, and he's like, "Hey, do this, look for that." So that's what it kind of reminded me of. Um, Still entertaining nonetheless. Again, it's one of those things where it's a spectator sport, and these guys feast off that. I thought it was hilarious watching because I watched some of the fights back, and there was a fight where I don't know if it was Cejudo or who it was, but Joe Rogan. Oh, it was what's his name? The guy that had the 20-second knockout. The
Francis
big oh
Ngannou.
man. Man, yeah, he killed that guy. And Joe Rogan's like, "All right, everybody, give it up for whatever." And he's like, to nobody, basically. Like there's nobody in the audience, so nobody's gonna cheer him on. Um, but I mean, I still think that with these guys being competitors, that it goes beyond just getting a reaction from a crowd, because there's still, I mean, it's a huge sport, and with everybody at home, I mean, they still had a lot of viewers, which ended up working out for them. It's like you said though, it's weird watching it live.
Yeah.
You don't have the crowd going nuts. Like imagine Conor McGregor having a fight during all this, and
Hmm.
there's nobody in the stadium to really cheer him on, or boo, or whatever the case may be. He doesn't really get boos, but I think it'd be interesting to see a huge bout go down. I mean, there
Yeah,
was
like a
obviously
John Jones or someone
yeah,
like
like a
that.
John Jones. There's like a huge name, and there's just no crowd,
Yeah.
but that's the new norm, right? So,
Yeah.
I think
I was gonna say Joe Rogan was supposed to be doing interviews like safely, and he said, "Nah, I'm just gonna do them how I
we're
normally
just
do."
gonna do them. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look that well, but I mean, it's to each their own. Like everybody has their own opinion on this whole quarantine and safe distancing and whatnot. I mean, I certainly I practice it, but um, I'm pretty sure all these guys get tested. There was a fighter who I'm pretty sure tested positive that morning or the day before who couldn't fight. I forgot his name, but forgive me for that. But it's as long as they're actively testing, and now that there's more and more tests, and we were talking about it, Illinois, I think test had 30,000 tests.
Yeah, which
Was
is
it
huge.
yesterday? Yeah, so I mean that's and it's gonna keep going up, and I think as long as we keep distancing safely and wearing our masks when we go out and wash our hands as much as we can the way well, we should anyways, don't touch your ass and then touch your mouth or shake hands with somebody. So I think, as long as we do it safely, sports will kind of start to see roll back in. UFC was I think it was a success personally. It was a huge success. It was weird, yes, but it just goes to show that as long as there's no crowd, they can
And
make it work.
yeah, and everyone follows the protocol. So
That's it.
going back to the Francis Ngannou fight,
Mhm.
he's one of the fighters. I don't follow UFC too heavily. I don't have like favorite fighters. I'll watch the big names if I hear about them. But yeah, I don't really have guys that are I'm like, "Oh, this is my guy. I need to make sure." But Francis Ngannou, I was like, "That's the one fight I need to watch." Was drinking a little bit, and then the seal broke and everything, and it was during the introductions. Normally during introductions, it's like a minute or two long. It's pretty long, especially with the crowd. They show a bunch of people in the crowd. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go use the bathroom, and I'll come back. I go take a leak, come back in like a minute, and they're showing the replays of the fight. I'm like, oh my god, the one fight I wanted to watch, done.
That's when you gotta pause, man. You gotta hit the pause button there. That's funny too, because that's kind of like how many fights there have been where it's an 8-second finish or 20-second finish, but normally you can time it. You can
Yeah,
time it because of the introduction.
yeah.
And the fact that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
It
I
was a
feel
lot
bad.
quicker this time due to
Yeah.
them just announcing the guys, and there's like, all right, here's the rules, touch gloves, let's go.
I believe we watched together the Conor McGregor and Donald Cerrone fight.
Yeah.
We watched it. We got a group of people together,
And it was
and
over.
it was over so quick, but we're like, we don't know what Conor McGregor we're gonna get. Is he gonna just go and destroy him right away? Is it gonna be a battle? Because Cerrone's a little bit bigger. And so I know I timed my bathroom break just right because we had drinks that night,
Yeah.
and we came back and I was like, all right, cool. Caught the fight. We've seen Conor McGregor end guys right away, and he did it this time. But obviously, the spectator sport of all spectator sports, and there's no fans. They just do you know if they gave did they have a ring girl? I didn't even see if they had ring
I
girls.
don't think so.
Okay,
They're also,
interesting.
well, I guess there is somewhat a need with the pay-per-view. I don't think so though.
Yeah, I mean these guys know what round it is,
Mhm.
right? And I'm sure they have it. It's the ring girls. It's just tradition with boxing and other fighting
Yeah,
sports. You
and
have
for
the fans.
presentation.
Yeah, it's exactly. So obviously it's not too necessary, but um yeah, definitely successful, and they have a lot more fights coming up, and it's not just they have like, the UFC fight night, they have the pay-per-views. If you subscribe to ESPN Plus, you can get the pay-per-views at a discounted rate. I personally do not subscribe to ESPN Plus. I'm not I don't say that I don't find it necessary. I just have not been like up to date with knowing every single fighter, I guess. I guess once upon a time I used to back in the day when Anderson Silva was like the champ and there was all
Yeah.
those guys. So, but now that there's not really much to watch, I'm probably going to catch myself watching more UFC, and, you know, especially considering that's the only live action besides 2 a.m. baseball in Korea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's either that or the late night baseball. Hoping to see some other stuff come back soon. Just have to wait. With NFL news, I don't think we have much today. There is a funny story though with the NFL. I don't know if you follow Barstool at all, but
Oh,
Dave Portnoy, and I don't know. It might just be all of Barstool. I think it. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but I know Dave Portnoy is like banned from NFL events. Because he was like outside the commissioner's office or something. He was somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be, and yeah, he got banned from all NFL events. There was an auction, and if you won it, you get to watch a Monday Night Football game with Roger Goodell in his basement and watch a game with him. And Dave Portnoy won the auction. He made sure he was not going to lose that auction. So
He
he put up
won it
massive amount of money.
$250,000, some odd $1,000. So we got that, and I think there's two regular season football tickets too. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's contingent based on where we're going to be with the quarantine and whatnot. But the irony in that is hilarious. The fact that he won that, and Goodell, I mean, for Goodell, and it's the good thing though, it's all for charity.
Yeah.
So there is, you can't really deny the guy, $250,000. It's going to a good cause. And I'm sure Goodell is like, whatever, like, come on through. We're going to have some beers. But the irony in that I find hilarious. Hilarious.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they're able to do that, because NFL could probably step in and be like, you know what, you're banned. Like we can't allow you to do. But in a sense, if they don't, $250,000 to charity, that's a bad look right there. He's kind of pinned them, and I think it will still go through.
I think it'll go through. I think the idea, I mean, he did get what they said. It was a lifetime ban, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, so they lift the ban and he behaves. And if, he put him on a probation, right? If he
Hmm.
acts up, then okay, then let's put that lifetime ban back on his name and don't let him in any stadiums.
That like might be the only news though for NFL. There wasn't
Yeah,
too much this week. There wasn't any news really in general. We're at the really slow point in news. Normally this is supposed to be baseball
this is supposed to be
time
the busiest. Yeah,
and
baseball,
playoffs for football or basketball.
basketball playoffs, football. You have the training camp, and Hard Knocks is on, and oh, the good old days, right? Just a year ago. But we did have this past Sunday another 2 episodes of
The
The Last Dance.
Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed these last 2 episodes. Might be a little biased with the whole baseball stuff, but uh yeah, very emotional episodes in
Oh
general.
yeah.
We're 1 week away from all of this being over, which is kind of wild. But again, they put together another couple good episodes, and it's been unbelievable. I'm
I
pretty
think
sure in the last week or whatever, when we did the podcast, I like called how the final episodes were gonna be, and I'm pretty sure it's on that track. Like next week, the first episode should be the 97 season, and then the next one should be the final season, which the championship, and I don't know what else they're gonna do in the 10th episode. Should be good, because that's all that's gonna be dedicated. And did they finish the conference championship? They say that I think they advanced to the finals in the last.
against yes, against Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah, they swept Orlando in the last episode. So Jordan got his revenge. So they obviously Horace Grant went to Orlando the year before,
Hmm.
and him, Shaq, Penny Hardaway, they all beat up on the Bulls, and Michael
Yeah.
was super tired, fatigued. Obviously, 21 months of baseball versus jumping right back to the NBA, the conditioning is completely different, as we know.
Hmm.
You can be a big boy and play baseball. You can be unconditioned and play baseball. So that was his revenge season. That was the year the 72-10 don't mean a thing without a ring,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is awesome.
Hmm.
Awesome. I found it ironic. I don't know if you watch in between like the during the commercial breaks, they always have like a little trivia, and they
Eh,
always did you see where they said, "Oh, the Bulls have the highest winning percentage, including the playoffs, and the
yeah.
second highest is Golden State?" Because Golden
Yeah.
State lost it when they went 73-9. They lost in the finals
Hmm.
against LeBron and the Cavs.
Yeah.
They
After being
were
up
up
3-1.
after being up 3-1. I think if my math is right, if they just won game 5, they probably would have had the higher winning percentage
Yeah.
over the Bulls. But they
Hmm.
ended up losing game 5, game 6, and game 7 to LeBron. And that says it right there. That solidified the Bulls as being obviously the better team. I mean, regular season is great. You can average 100 points a game in the regular season, but if you don't get through the playoffs, what good is that, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so that was pretty cool to see. And they came out that year and they got their revenge against oh wait, no, the conference finals was against the Pacers.
Which was 97-98.
97-98.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's what I was
That
referencing.
was Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yes, they were
So in the
just
timeline right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they had beat them yet in that
Okay.
season.
Okay. So they'll probably talk about that in episode number 9 and then go over the 96-97 season. So we'll start at the beginning. It was pretty much Jordan won a championship. It was his end of the first three-peat. His dad dies, and he's like, I'm going to go to baseball.
And then there was speculation, as you mentioned before, and we talked about off the air, obviously. There's the rumors and the conspiracy theories that he may have gotten suspended behind closed doors for 18 months due to gambling. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was the conspiracy that his gambling got him in
Yeah.
trouble, which resulted in the death of his dad, which I don't think is fair at all. I think that's like it's a low blow. It's like spitting on an open wound,
Mm-hmm.
or throwing salt on an open wound, I'm sorry. And that whole episode, that was like the first episode. And that right there, you're like, man, the media beat him down. He's emotional. I'm getting emotional watching it. And it gets more and more like heavier as the episode goes on. And then the next episode was just as heavy. And we saw him go and he played baseball, and how he announced his retirement, how the fans heard, and it all happened while at the Sox game in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
crazy how much control one man could have on the the world, the whole
Mm-hmm.
world, the media, the players in the league. Clearly the MLB for him to go jump to the league. Which they even said, like, yeah, he wasn't that great at baseball, but he didn't really have that long of an opportunity to really show. And
Yeah.
who was it? Jerry Reinsdorf even said, he's like, if he had a little bit more time, he could have
Terry
made the ball
Francona.
club. Or is it Terry Francona?
Terry
Yeah,
Francona had said that, and I think Jerry also reiterated it.
Okay. Yeah, because Terry Francona, he's been around a while. Is he still coaching?
He's with the Indians.
He's with the Indians. Okay, so he is still around. So I mean, Jordan was just talented. It just goes to show, like, there's very few athletes who can do that. Deion Sanders was one of them. He was able to play both at the same time, football
Bo
and
Jackson.
baseball. Bo Jackson, he's from Burr Ridge, right? So there's select athletes that we consider a pure athlete. And I mean, Jordan, for him to do that
Mm-hmm.
and to even jump back to basketball
Yeah.
and to perform the way he did without being really that conditioned, I thought was incredible. And his biggest challenge was coming back from that.
Yeah. Uh, I'll go back to the beginning. I thought it was interesting how one of the reasons why he went to baseball was Jordan was basically like, I have nothing else to accomplish. I've won MVPs. I've won Defensive Players of the Year. I've won scoring titles.
3 in
I've
a
won
row.
3 championships in a row. What more can I do? And
He said,
he had no
yeah,
motivation at all. And then I think the main reason why he left and went to play baseball, which they reiterated it, was his dad died, and it was his dad's dream for Michael to play baseball. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go play baseball. And after watching, well, I'll come back to this after, but yeah, he goes straight to the White Sox. And I've always wondered, why he went to double A. Why'd they throw him in double A? And in the episode, they're like, our double A facility is the lowest, what do you want to call it? Ranking? I don't know. It's their lowest affiliated team that could support the media for Michael Jordan. So he couldn't, normally guys start in rookie ball, single A, high A, and then move up the rankings. They could not do that with Jordan because of the media presence. So he got thrown in there. And also, it was very interesting when he jumped to baseball, his trainer was like, Michael, this is a different sport. You have to completely change your body, how it works, muscle wise, and it could hurt your basketball body. And he was like, I don't care, because his motivation wasn't there. He was grieving. He's like, we're going to do it. So he goes, hits 200, has 50 RBIs, 30 plus stolen bases. He was great. He was decent. I could not imagine tossing someone into double A today and them hitting 200. That's pretty good.
That's not bad. That is not bad at all. For a guy who, as a kid, played baseball and never played baseball ever since his childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the whole, he had to change his body because with basketball, and he even mentioned it too, when you're training basketball, it's all shoulders and chest. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're conditioning your legs. You're not really lifting your legs that much. These guys don't go heavy on their legs, but baseball relies on your hip, the activation of your hips. And dude, these baseball guys got some big legs. Their power derives from their legs and their hips. So he did have to alter that a little bit. And you noticed it too when he had to go back to the NBA, which I know we're gonna get to, but that was pretty interesting to see how he was able to weather the storm in a way. I mean, that's not an easy challenge. Like he's a natural athlete, and that's what made
Yeah.
him, and he had the coordination, which helped. Jumping to double A ball and batting at 200. I mean, 50 RBIs. There was a game. They were showing some highlights. He smacked one down third base line, I think, in Wrigley. I don't even know exactly what game that was. I saw online, and he was just a ball player. And I think the one of the cool things that I personally enjoyed hearing from him, he's like, they didn't treat me like Michael Jordan. They
Yes.
treated me like one of the guys. They didn't care who I was. And he's like, that's what I've been wanting. And for me, I was like, holy shit. He's a normal human being.
Yeah, that's the difference between baseball and basketball too, especially in the minors. You're on buses everywhere. You are traveling for days at a time. You don't see your families.
Almost year round, yeah.
Compared to basketball. So who do you have to hang around with and like be close with? His teammates. And his teammates didn't see him as the great Michael Jordan. They saw him as a teammate himself. I thought that was great. That was one of the points I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts. He was like excited to say it too. You can tell he was like, they treated me like I was one of them. I was not, because in the NBA, everybody looked up to. He had so much pressure. The media, the players. He knew he was good too, so he put the pressure on himself. And then with the MLB, with baseball, he's like, okay, I have an opportunity here, whether if it's because my name is Michael Jordan or not. He's like, these guys accepted me and were like, that's camaraderie. And I thought that was awesome. That was like my favorite part of both episodes.
I did see a quote from, I think, Terry Francona, or a story about it. So in one of their games, they were up 11-0. Michael Jordan hits a double and he proceeds to steal third. Up 11-0, which back then in baseball, big no-no. You don't do that. You're already kicking the crap out of your opponent. And Terry Francona is like, oh, I'm trying to like make amends with the opposing manager and be like, yo, like this wasn't meant to happen. I think it was close to the end of the game too. And Michael Jordan gets to the dugout and Terry Francona is like, Michael, what are you doing? Are you trying to get us killed? And he's like, in basketball, when you're up 20, you try to go up 30. So I'm trying to do the same thing here. And it's like, okay, yeah. Yeah, you just try to keep kicking the crap out of your opponent and seeing how big you can get the lead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like for us, I mean, you obviously played ball. I played ball growing up. There's like an unwritten rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's just the heart of the lion, though. You know, you can't. He's very competitive,
Yeah.
and he loves the game. He loves the game, and that's the thing. You can't. You can't. For one, you're not going to tell a guy who's as competitive as him and everything he does. You can go toss quarters with him at a brick wall, and he's going to compete with you. Um, Obviously, with baseball, it's a little bit different. You're up 11-0, but at the same time, you have to understand who he is as a person, and you expect somebody to just back down with competition, and then you're taking them out of their from who they are, you know. So that's kind of funny. That is
Mm-hmm.
kind of funny, actually, and hence he came back not too much later after that. It was 18 months. Now, when he came back, I'm trying to think. That was in the middle.
Of like
That was
March.
right.
It was
Okay,
right before
okay,
the playoffs, pretty much. So
yeah, because he
it
led
was
them
like
down that stretch.
February, March, sometime around there because of the players' strike, I believe. There's an
Yeah,
MLB player strike. He actually could have played in the majors if he crossed the picket line, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to disrespect people. Be one of those guys." So he didn't, and then he came back to basketball. I do think though, with watching those episodes, if he didn't go play baseball, I actually don't know if that second three-peat would have happened. That going out and playing baseball really helped him clear his mind. It helped him get over his father's death, and it refreshed his competitiveness for the game of basketball again.
not just him, his team too. You know, they mentioned these guys had fun. Their leader is Pippen. Pippen
Mm-hmm.
was not like Jordan. He was very competitive. He was the best player probably in the league when Jordan was gone. And there was an event where they gave Tony Kukoc the game-winning shot in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And Pippen had an inbound and he said he's going to sit. And Phil's like, "Pippen, what are you doing? You're in or you're out." And he told him he was out. And it changed the whole demeanor of the team. And so who was it? Bill Cartwright, being the teammate that he is, and obviously ended up being he was an okay coach afterwards. He was very upset and he gave the speech and he's crying. He's like, "Scotty, like, why would you do that? Like, we're brothers, basically. We're a team. We're doing this without Michael. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look where we're at."
Yeah.
And Pippen even, was, emotional about it. He apologized and he said, "I wouldn't change anything," because that also formulated, that was sitting on everybody's mind for I don't know how long. And then when Jordan came back, it just all just clicked. It worked. Pippen, obviously, Pippen had some, I don't want to say he was a drama queen because he wasn't as big of a drama queen as some players that we see
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. But he had his moments and he backed down and he showed that, I don't want to say that he wasn't a leader. I think, and they even said like that was just a mishap. Like that
Yeah.
just, it had to happen. Because they won the game. He came out in the next game and he dunked on Patrick Ewing and it turned into a fight almost, which is still one of the best dunks of all time in
Mm-hmm.
game. And I think that was a huge, huge, huge point for them because this is life after Jordan, but it wasn't necessarily life after Jordan. It was life away from Jordan because
Mm-hmm.
Jordan came back and it just worked so perfectly. Besides their loss in the playoffs to Orlando and Horace Grant and Shaq, that was just he came back late. That team wasn't ready for that. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and
Michael
they
wasn't.
showed, yeah, and they showed in the offseason the work he put in. They were like, "Michael, when do you want to go back to work?" And he's like, "Tomorrow." He lost in the playoffs and he said, "Tomorrow.
Yeah, he
Let's
had
go."
no off season. He
No
wanted to come
offseason.
back and make sure to dominate.
Yeah, and that led to, I think that offseason was that no, Space Jam was 97 to 98?
I think it was that same year.
Same year?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
So, and that
was
was
when he
another,
was like out of the league, pretty much too.
okay. Yep. So, and he came back and all of a sudden he's shooting a movie. And I thought it was interesting that they were getting guys on set of Warner Brothers to hoop with him. So he's getting his scouting. He's seeing how these guys are playing these days, Reggie Miller and all these other great guys. I think Barkley was there.
Yep.
Well, Barkley was in the movie. And so it was pretty interesting to see how they can, keep him in tune to keep him training while filming a movie. And it was like he would wake up, film, he would go to the gym, he would shoot, he would have guys come in, they would run fives, he would practice, and he would still lift weights after playing. He had a weight train after playing however many games for however many hours. And Reggie Miller even said it himself, this guy's a monster. This guy's a
Hmm.
monster. So, I mean, you don't get that from a lot of players. Like I said, a lot of players are divas. I mean, self-respected. A lot of guys want to avoid injury, but Jordan wasn't like that. He's like, how can I improve? And that's just keep my ass in the gym.
Hmm. And then, like we talked about before, they went 72-10. Michael Jordan got his revenge on the Orlando Magic. Was the first round the Hornets round
I
with
believe the
BJ
first round,
Armstrong,
BJ Armstrong.
or was
I'm
that the year
trying to.
before?
I think that was the year before because he came back. Was BJ Armstrong there? I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure that was the year before. They beat the Hornets in the first round, but that was after BJ Armstrong had that game of his life. He had the
Yeah,
game of his life. He had the dagger shot in the fourth.
and Showboat. He taunted Jordan, Jackson, and Pippen, and then
The
after
whole
that,
event.
Jordan went off. That was another great point in the episode. Michael Jordan was making stuff up just so he could be mad and just kick the crap out of
Fuel.
team. Yeah.
Just fuel. He's competitive. That's how it is, though. George Karl in one of the series ignored Jordan.
The
And George
Sonics.
Karl, yeah, the Sonics. And George Karl and Jordan had a good relationship. But George Karl made it a point, we're not friends right now. And Jordan took that to heart. And so he had Gary Payton. I thought the funniest part of there's a couple funny parts, but I think the funniest part was when Gary Payton was like, we had to beat up Jordan. We had to get him tired. He's like, and that's what we did. He's like, now, if I would have played that way in the first 3 games of the series, who knows what would have happened? And Jordan started dying laughing. He's like, I was never worried about the glove.
Yeah, and I don't know if you just mentioned this, but George Karl didn't put Gary Payton on Michael Jordan.
He didn't put him on him the first 3 games. He put him on game 4, which they won. And then game 5, he was on him again. And I don't know, did they win in 5 or 6?
Yeah,
I don't
they won
remember.
in 5.
They won in 5. So yeah, so they got their one win. Gary Payton had a steal or two, whatever it was. And he was like just so high up on his high horse, like, yeah, finally I told George Karl, I'm gonna guard Jordan. We're not doing it your way. And so they got the win, and then Jordan was like, no, look, every dog has their day. And I think that's the good thing about Jordan is I think he's very analytical mentally to the game. So he understands what he did wrong, but also what was successful for the other guy. Because
Eh,
nobody ever had that much success against him.
Yeah, it was actually 6 games. Bulls won the first 3, Sonics won 2, in
Okay.
game 4 and game 5, and then Jordan closed 6.
Yeah. So, and that right there. And so that was their second title of the second run, right?
That was their
Against Seattle.
first.
That was the first.
Yeah, it was the 72-10 season. Because then the
Oh,
next
you're right.
year they
You're right.
defeat the Jazz. They beat the Jazz twice in a row.
Yeah, back to back. That Jazz team was good. We'll see that though in the next episode.
Yeah, we're gonna see
Next
the
2
first.
episodes.
Yeah, we're gonna see the first matchup against the Jazz.
Yeah, because there was one, I think it was 98 when Steve Kerr had the game winner.
Yeah.
And that was, oh man, when he punched Steve Kerr in the face too. That was also one of those things too where Steve Kerr was like, I'm competitive too. He's like, the only difference between me and Jordan is I don't always go out and just win with my competitiveness. Jordan did. He's like, he punched me in the chest. I punched him in the chest. And Jordan's like, I punched him in his face. And then Phil Jackson made him, he kicked him out of practice
Yeah.
and then he called Steve Kerr after. And I mean, he made it a point. It wasn't about Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
It was his frustration with how everything was being handled, and obviously, again with Jordan, he had to push guys to get ready for war. And that was the one thing he was prepping these guys for. And he got emotional at the end of episode 1, and I felt it. Like I felt it watching it when he was tearing up and he's like, they always perceive me as a bad guy, but that's because you never won anything. And I just right there, just in my core, just like seized up, and I would just felt everything. Like every word he said there was, you can't combat that. Like, yeah, he's a bad guy, sure, but these guys all have the same goal. They're not out there to have fun. They're out there to win championships. At least that's how
Mm-hmm.
the heart of a champion should be, right? Like the end result is go and win a championship. And that was always his goal. And he made sure that he never felt out of line with that. So he even said it, he would never have somebody do something that he didn't do.
Yeah.
And so I think he was not just a player, but he was a coach. And he just had, it was tough love with him, obviously. And they won championships. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next 2 episodes, as I mentioned before, it'll most likely be the 96-97 season and then the Western Conference playoffs of the 98 playoffs, or the Eastern Conference of the 98 playoffs. And then the final episode is probably going to be the championship and like the whole conclusion. But yeah, fantastic storytelling. I thought the beginning this was only going to be about the 98 season, but this whole 10-part series, it's about Michael Jordan and his whole career in this final season,
yeah.
which was great.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Is Jordan the main topic in this? Yes. Is this a Jordan documentary? I'm
Yeah.
going to say yes. But there's so much more to it. There's drama around it. They do a very, very, very good job at making sure Phil gets his credit, and the supporting cast is just as important. Jordan, obviously, in his first couple years, he didn't win for 7 seasons, right? And so that was a big thing with like other NBA players. I'm not going to bring him up. I like to bring him up a lot. He didn't win for 7 seasons. Oh, he's garbage. He's trash. He's not a winner in the finals, so on and so forth. But like players like LeBron or players like, well, Kobe won right away. Kobe
He
won
got
right
lucky
away.
right there.
He
Well,
won right away. He got Phil, obviously coming off of a successful tenure with the Bulls, came over to LA. Shaq came over after winning not a championship, but had some winning seasons with Orlando. Obviously Big Diesel, Shaq, and they there's not many players who just go out and just start winning.
mm-hmm.
Jordan just didn't start winning. I mean, he was very good. He's obviously going into the league at 19 or 20. He did pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Or actually, no, I'm sorry. He was a little bit older.
No. Yeah, he was like 22-ish.
Yeah, he was a little bit older.
21, 22.
Because yeah, he did more years in college than well, LeBron came out of
Right
high
out of high
school.
school. Yeah.
But so I thought that was pretty interesting too, as this whole documentary is all about the rise and fall of a dynasty and all the drama that mixes in around
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's bigger than life itself. I mean, he is the reason why the NBA is where it's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am
So,
definitely excited for this week. Next week, we're gonna talk all about episodes 9 and 10. I hope you guys are as ready for the final couple episodes as we are. That's gonna do it for this week's episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. You can follow us on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify. Make sure to hit that download button. It's the best way to show support, and we see the stats that way. Also, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SROnlyPod. You can follow myself at the Healy6, and you can follow Goose.
I am iGoose with 4 O's. Again, don't ask why. Go ahead and give us a follow, download. Like Healy said, it's very important. Leave comments and stay interactive on social media with us. Keep us entertained. We'll try to keep you entertained. And until next week.
Yeah, we will see you guys later.